Let's go now to Miss Barbara Gatto from the Sustainable Development Department of CNA. Barbara, the floor is yours.
Okay, good morning, and thank you, and thanks to organizer of this initiative. First of all, I would like to remember that the issue of transition, and in particular of tools and skills necessary to face it, is a topic issue of the European Union. But I think that in this particular phase, this issue is still more important than in the past years. In fact, we know other colleagues already talked about it, that Europe and all member states are facing a challenge that will have a significant impact on the characteristics of our economic system, from an economic point of view, but also for what concerns social aspects. And in particular, in this difficulty phase, this phase can represent an exceptional opportunity to implement robust measures able to pursue a structural new growth of European economic system. Also, thanks to the opportunity of recovery fund. And in building this action, we need to continue in giving the necessary attention to the sustainability aspects in its various aspects, economic, environmental, and social aspects. In fact, today there is a clear awareness that issues such as equity, protection of territory, and education are fundamental elements of a model of development economic growth, according to the concept of just and inclusive transition. And the important thing is that to implement this strategy, it's necessary to aim to focusing on characteristics of our micro and small enterprises. But at the same time, we need to strengthen it towards a new competitive and innovative capacity of our SMEs. In fact, the challenges of future, such as the green and digital transition, bring new complexities that the Italian and European businesses system must be able to manage. To concretize this challenge, we need to be able to face this challenge without leaving behind any sector or any type of business. We cannot think of bringing out of the crisis only the most solid and structured companies. This is, according to CNA, the concept of just transition. I think that this is a challenge for those who are responsible for defining strategies and political choices, but also for business organizations that can support companies on this path. In fact, it is therefore evident that the issue of skills and continuing vocational education represents a strategic lever of this process. In fact, the way in which companies will face with the transition can be favored only through a system of adequate skill. We know that today on this front there is still a gap to overcome, both in terms of training offer that not always is in line with the new professional needs linked to the transition challenge, and also in terms of existing barriers. In Italy, we did several surveys that shown that the access to skill, together with a not always adequate legislative context and financial support, represent a serious obstacle to the adoption of transition paths, for example, through eco-innovation, especially for micro and small enterprises. In particular, the last years we realized together with ENEA, our public research bodies on sustainability, we realized an analysis on a large sample of Italian SMEs that has better shown these elements, highlighting an inadequate overall attention to the issues of human capital and skills, giving evidence to the need of strengthening the area of knowledge, skills, and training. In this sense, I think that specific tools for continuing vocational education and training, such as our interprofessional joint funds promoted by social partners, represent an excellent opportunity to continue investing in updating skills with companies. And we should also remember that the European objectives for a green and digital transition open up new market and occupational opportunities, which are fundamental in the post-emergency phase, and recall the need to develop new professionals with specific skills in this area. For example, a study of the Italian Foundation for Sustainability has shown some important results. Some data. With 7 billion in Italy of public investment in transition, there would be about 21 private ones. These investments would generate a value of production equal to 74 billion per year. And new employment would be favored for about 400,000 new units, which, also considering the indirect impact, would rise over 600,000 new units of employment. It's obvious that, in particular in this difficult phase, this is an exceptional opportunity to support GDP growth and employment, but which also requires investing in vocational and training systems. In conclusion, if on one end it is evident that in order to pursue and optimize the benefits of the transition, it is necessary to create a more favorable context by overcoming the current inefficiencies. At the same time, this requires a fundamental role of social partners and EU business organizations. And from this point of view, I think that initiatives like this of today and in general, our capability to create, to promote, to continue to work through a network, a solid network at European level between social partners, European small SME organizations, European Trade Union Confederation can help us and our enterprises to win this challenge, focusing on better training, better technological development, giving us the opportunity, for example, to exchange best practices and training experiences. So I think that considering this context, considering also the difficulties that I described before, we can strengthen our network, our relationship on the issues of sustainability and transition from one end, and vocational training from the other end, in order to build new tools, new opportunities focused on SMEs' characteristics and needs. And that's all.
Barbara, this session, the speech of this session, the presentation of this session is already complete. Now I would like to ask you if you have any questions.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Yes, a very short question. I would like to know, I would like to ask to the speakers how the new needs in digital skills, in environmental skills, have promoted a new strategy to put together all the subjects involved in this, in VAT. It means school, enterprises, social partners, in order to create a coherent group which can discuss permanently the innovation to answer to the needs of the enterprise. Thank you.
Okay, who want to speak, or to answer, Barbara, or I can open the microphone to the speaker, and wish to speak. Marco Cilento now can speak. Barbara as well. Or maybe Gofas. Who you want to answer? Dimitris.
Yes. Hello. Good morning to everybody. Just a quick question related to this panel, which is very institutional element. I would like to ask if someone can answer, perhaps Panos or President or the other people, whether there has been any discussion at this point of time after pandemic or the reskilling or upskilling process and how the European Union tackles this, especially on the micro level, on the level of SMEs. Thank you.
I don't know if I can step in case if nobody's intervening. I don't know if it's time to, I may say something in case the others.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. No, just first of all, hello to Brando. It's sometimes that we don't meet in person, so I hope to see him in person soon. So very happy to have you in this debate. Second is I'm not so convinced that a good system, the objective that we mentioned today can only be achieved if we will be able to set up a multi-stakeholder approach to the policy development. Multi-stakeholder means not only the fact that we talk to each other, but when we start a specific...
Όχι, δεν είχε κανονίσει.
Sorry.
Yeah, you can.
Can I continue?
Yeah.
I was saying that in this kind of experiment is what Ronald was saying about the necessity to have all the actors. When we have created a platform for training and labor inclusion of migrants, and in particular refugees, our best experience, and one comes from Greece, exactly with the organizations that are present in this workshop. We have demonstrated that the inclusiveness of these training measures are quite bigger when we have all the actors that agree beforehand on what it has to be done, and to show that people that are participating, the recipients, the final recipients of the action, will feel that around them there is a movement where all the actors are moving in a coherent way. So from when you start learning languages, when you start learning rules of the countries you are, at the same time you are creating your skills to start working, at that moment you need that around the table you have the municipalities, the education institutions, you have the companies, the trade unions, they all must be part of the same process. But this must be happen when you start doing things in practice, so when you meet the people, because one thing is doing in Brussels, and this can also be done, is not that difficult. The more difficult part is to do that when you start spending the real money with the real people, and to make in a way that the money goes for the real benefit of people, in a way that all the actors are together doing something for the beneficiaries. So this is in a view, crucial aspect, and we did it. We demonstrated working with migrants in this case that this way to approach these things can be quite successful with the multi-stakeholder approach.
Mr. Cilento. As I see also Mr. Cappellini has raised his hand for a question. So please, Luca, give the floor to Claudio.
Done.
No.
Yes, hello, do you hear me?
Yes, hello. Good morning.
Hello, Vasily. I have one question for Mr. Cilento, one question for Barbara Gatto, if she's still with us. The first question, Mr. Cilento, is that he mentioned the fact that migration and could be also an element of collaboration of different actors of the society and of the social partners, locally and nationally and at European level. My question is, do you think that in the near future we could work, because also vocational training, continuous training concern a certain part of our business community, and to this extent, do you think that we can work together with the interested business organization and training bodies in this area? So also migration and entrepreneurship would be an area of common interest. Of course, as Barbara Gatto, and this is the question for her, she mentioned that the possibility to work together in sustainable development of new local economy system or ecosystem. Do you think we could work in this sense, and how in concrete we could activate this synergy? Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Cilento and Mr. Barbaragatta, you have microphone open, so you may speak.
I don't know if Barbara wants to go first, or is fine.
Okay. Mr. Goffas?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay. I think that there was a question from Mr. Bimbas concerning the pandemic and what he has been done so far. I think that there are some I would say actions from the council and the commission supporting employers and employees. But I think, and I want to put it underlined here in this meeting today, that we, as Academy Avignon, we have made a proposal to the Parliament, and this proposal was that there must be a task force supervising if the implementation of the decisions and the measures that already have been decided from the Council, if they are implemented in the Member States. Because unfortunately, we're receiving all this information that a lot of money have been decided from the Council and the Commission as an aid to the Member States to support the employees and the employers, but actually not they are not reaching the real economy. So there is this is the answer, Bimbas, that there is I would say a proposal. I think it's a very strong proposal, that we want a mechanism that will supervise the implementation of the measures have been decided. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Goffas. Lucas, I would like to set also me a question, if there are no other questions from the audience.
Hey.
Yes, so CDFOP published the last July a briefing note on the title Online Networking and Learning in the Coronavirus Era. In this briefing note, CDFOP emphasized the crucial role of the social partners in encouraging continuing education and training, and more specific, CDFOP mentioned that social partners and e-learning platform companies could develop partnerships to extend training opportunities to employers and employees who are working online now due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So my question is, from the three speakers, if your organizations, your institutes have already taken any initiative in this direction?
Okay, if you want to answer, I will open the microphone to three speakers. So now, just 1 second. Jofas can speak if you want. Mr. Cilento, you may answer. Which one are you?
Okay, if you want, I can start and take it.
Okay, it's fine.
Okay. Fine. Okay, concerning the first question from Claudio, what I find interesting concerning the relationship between migration and vocational training. On one hand, it's quite constructive in the sense that we have demonstrated as social partners that when we can be very pragmatic and concrete in working with migrants, especially to provide them with the right skills to enter into the labor market, and to find good development through also the dual system, education, learning at work, etc. So I think also with the issue of recognition qualification, we have been very, very pragmatic, and we found very good solutions that, in my view, can be taken also for other groups and for further development of this kind of activities that we do together. But there is also a second aspect to be considered, because upskilling, reskilling people, intervening on the direct capacity of people requires a lot of investment and money. On the other side, we see that especially for very small business, the possibility to go and identify people that are already ready to work. I mean, migrants, not only from third country nations. There are migrants, we can be people moving inside the EU, or just from one region to another in other countries. Let's say people mobility could be a cheaper solution compared to the investments that are needed to create the skills that we actually need today in the market, especially if we look to the big transformation we are going through and that Barbara was talking about. So there is also a sort of necessity to coordinate the policy between people movement and how much we invest in the people movement to match the skills that are actually needed in the labor market, and the huge investment that we have to do in creating the right skills in the population to have a workforce that is prepared for the challenges of the future. Of course, here is very delicate balance that we have to strike, because there is on one hand the right of people to move, on the other side the possibility to maintain the level of investment that are needed on education and training. Considering the question of e-learning platforms, I want to stress the fact that more and more the e-learning, the vocational training is becoming a huge business. This is also important to mention that learning education is also part of the sustainability agenda, for instance, for the SDGs. This attracts a lot the private investors that want to qualify their investments are sustainable. But it's also a very profitable investment. So the money invested to create infrastructure for vocational training and education today bring a lot of money. It's really convenient. And we have many funds that demonstrate this. So I have evidences that show that the private sector, in this case, is investing a lot. The problem here, especially for the social partners, is how to ensure, once again, the balance between increasing the offer for training, at the same time avoiding educational divides, creating elites, creating polarization in the labor market, all things that we are trying to fight. So it's in this moment, the e-learning is really something that is moving the axis or the dimension of learning from the public to private. We should not be ideologically against these kind of things, but we also must be fully aware of the risks behind it. We have to map the risks of this kind of action, and we have absolutely take all the measures are necessary to ensure access to these measures, equality, not only in the opportunities we give to people, but also to have an inclusiveness in society and labor markets where people can actually benefit from the skills they can gain. So good to have these new forms of branding, of learning, but at the same time, let's try to anticipate change and not to realize in 10 years that we have created an even more unfair, unjust, and unfair labor market. So this is just my remark. In here, social partners will do a lot.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cilento. Now, Mr. Gopas, 1 minute, please, if you can answer to 1 minute.
Okay, Mr. Gopas.
Yes, I think that I tried to cover before the question, so I don't have any response to the rest of the questions. I'm not I would say the expert on this.